Gurgaon has seen about tripling the prices tripling in last 4 to 5 years time, which is crazy. Part of it is money losing its value because we see that happening with any kind of expense that we do. I believe mental health is all about knowing what is noise and what is the thing which matters to you.
Hey, we're back with another episode in COPATALKS, the ultimate CFO podcast brought to you by Bluecopa. Here, we bring you unfiltered access to conversations with veteran finance leaders covering key milestones and challenges in their journey through stories. Today's episode is an open conversation with Arun, the founder of Zawter, a managed CXO services firm that helps small and mid-sized businesses with their finance operations. Join us as we talk about Arun's early days in real estate, his startup story, mental health for finance leaders, AI trends, and everything in between. Let's go. Hey Arun, super glad to have you on the show. Welcome.
Hi Guru and the whole Bluecopa team. I'm super excited to be there with you.
Likewise. We'll quickly start with a round of introduction. We've already told who you are, what you've accomplished, but would love to hear your story right from your early days in terms of your childhood, your college, your entry into finance. And I'm very curious about a particular milestone that you've achieved in CA. So yeah, let's start with that.
Sure. So I've been a commerce student, a finance student ever since I cleared my 10th exam, which is when you start looking at, bifurcating the stream. So finance, comes in the family. My father is an accountant out there in Rewari. So from 10th to 12th, it was a general student who's learning a new thing in finance, and things were open. Came 12th, you wrote the exam and got to know that now you need to finalize a career option, and probably that was where got to hear about CA, the Chartered Accountancy, as a course. Interestingly, at that point in time, even the computer application was a hot thing. So frankly, after 12th, I just had two options, a CA or a BCA. And frankly, the only difference that I knew was that BCA has 1B additional to the CA. So, and another thing which was very peculiar about CA as a profession was that, a lot of people came back and said that it is a tough one. So the typical thing is, tum kar lega kya? And probably that is one thing which kind of triggered this, that, something.
Just because you remove a letter doesn't mean it's easier. It's going to be tougher. The more you remove letters,
tougher. Yes. So met a few teachers, met a lot of people, talked to them about it. And people said that, if you want to do it, you should go ahead and do it. So that's where the whole story of, getting into the finance kicked in. Took about 4 years to clear my CA, got decently good marks, got the first job. I had two options, either to go into a typical finance, joining Reliance Industries in Mumbai, or, getting into the equity research mode. This again was a unique proposition because equity research was a new field. As a finance student, we have not been kind of introduced to that in detail.
You're talking about early 2000s, right?
I am talking about 2005 is when I cleared. Right. So 2001 to 2005 was the time when I was studying CA. 2005 is when I cleared it. 2006 was the first job.
Got it.
So Reliance Industries versus equity research. I got into equity research. Spent good 8-9 years. Worked with different investment banks during this period. I worked with Deutsche Bank, for UBS. Religare was my last job. 2013 mid is when I kind of said that it is enough. Let's try to do something.
Yeah.
2013 mid is when I left my full-time job. Kept working with them for another 2 years on a partial time basis. 2015 is when I was off employment, off the equity research work that I did.
Got it.
So that was the early part, the first 50% of my time. Yeah. You are asking something.
No, you conveniently ignored one important thing. You scored All India rank 40 in the CA exams. Tell me about that.
Interesting. So, frankly speaking, if you ask a CA student and you ask him, what do you expect or what do you wish a day before the results come, he would say, okay, I need 50% marks to clear. I just need 50%, nothing more than that. So it just happens. I somehow feel that I never prepared for a rank when I was preparing for C exams. It
Mhm.
happened. Probably I could have done better than my peers at that point in time.
Yeah.
But come today, if I look at it, it is a typical competitive exam as you see in a CAT or
Yeah.
or a civil services exam that people write. So I believe that the smart work, that probably somebody does in a C exam helps. So for to me, it just happened.
Correct.
you know,
I think
I've
you
got
said
3.5 months, and probably I did some good, right things at the right time at that moment.
yeah. I think you did all the right things.
Yeah,
Get,
probably
get
so. Yes, more than one.
So the most competitive exam in the country, getting All India rank 40, which is the top 50 people in the whole country. I think you're being too modest about it. But chalo, let's move on from that. So quickly circling back to another point you mentioned, you said you started your career with another uh, bold sort of a contrarian move where you took the equity path instead of a traditional path, right? Equity research. Trying to understand. So you spend a lot of time on real estate and that segments. You're doing a lot of research there. So tell us about how your day looked like or how your work looked like then, and what were some of the challenges and learnings you got out of it. Essentially, trying to set some context on
Yeah,
that role.
right. So as a chartered accountant, you are actually taught to learn about accounting, the auditing, which is more inward looking things, right? Which is more about looking at transactions and understanding them. On the other hand, as a research analyst, the job was to actually understand the business, see how it is performing basis the number that it is throwing to you, linking the macro things with the micro, data points that you get, and then create a single view, which is like creating a story around a sector. For example, real estate at this point in time, how is it doing? Primarily because the prices have kind of shot up significantly high. Should somebody invest in it or not? Number one. Number two would be within that, what are those good businesses that are probably doing better than others, which can actually sustain the challenges that the industry can actually face. The third thing then is, basis all of the information that you've got, at what price do you buy a particular stock, or should you sell that? Now, that was the whole day all about, which is about talking to the management, understanding the news articles that are coming around,
Yeah,
uh, talk to the investors, and then create a view.
understood. Great. On a very funny note, I couldn't help but ask this because I see you're also from Gurgaon. So the real estate prices are quite. I know. I think you already saw it coming. But the real estate prices are really high in Gurgaon, followed by Mumbai. So what's your take on that? What do you suggest now? Should people invest in real estate?
See, the thing is, real estate, for that matter, land as a asset class is something which is scarce, right? So I don't think one can. And given that I have spent good, about 15 odd years learning about this particular market,
Yeah.
it is a very cyclical market, which means that there are times when you make huge money, and then there are times when there is trough and that nothing happens for good 5, 6, 7 years time, right? So I would not say that is it a right time to enter in or not, primarily because you've seen a big growth in prices happening in last 4 or 5 years.
Got
But
it.
real estate is one asset class that one should have in his or her portfolio. That
Hmm.
goes without saying. uh, Gurgaon has seen about tripling the prices tripling in last 4 to 5 years
Yeah.
time, which is crazy.
Yeah.
Part
Yeah.
of it is money losing its value, because we see that happening with any kind of expense that we do. You talk about your budget for shoe, that has also kind of doubled in last 5, 6 years time, right?
True.
So money
True.
has lost its value. One part is that. Second is, yes, the city, or for that matter, all the big cities in India have kind of blossomed.
Yeah.
Wait for some time, keep looking for opportunities. I'm sure this is an asset class that will remain for long. So one cannot miss it, in my view.
Funny you mentioned shoes as the commodity for comparison because there's a history towards it. So at Bluecopa, whenever we used to travel, whenever we end up in a different city, I used to buy shoes.
Hmm.
And my co-founder Neil used to mock me, saying that had you invested this in a much you know appreciating property, it would have been a great thing. I told him, I'm actually investing in a Jordan's, which is an appreciating property. So we used to keep having this debate. So Shu reminded me of that.
Yes. That is there, and that's what I was trying to tell you, that the
Yeah.
budgets have gone up significantly, and if it is a premier asset for you, Jordan's is a premier asset. There is no value that you can attach to it at times.
True that. I agree. Great. So this is the consolation I give myself and Neil. Great. So when it comes to real estate, right, especially in finance, in forecasting, there's a lot of straightforward natural causes that delay the whole delivery of the property and everything. Right.
Hmm.
As CFOs or finance leaders, and this is just a very in opinionated question that I want to hear from you. How do you think CFOs are factoring in these delays? How does that work, right? Essentially, now we are delaying things. There might be a loss that get incurred. There's additional operational expenses and everything. So this loss prevention model that they are trying to build, right, to ensure that despite the delays, they are building a profitable business for the real estate company. So how do CFOs generally work around this? What is their plan around this?
So I'll take it as a question related to a CFO or a finance professional who's working for a real estate business, right?
Please, yeah,
So
absolutely.
you look at any real estate business, a builder, he would generally look at it as a manufacturing entity, wherein you have land as a raw material. You add,
Correct.
you add value to it by constructing it and then sell it off, right?
True.
Now, what happens is that there is no cash flow gap that you would see as soon as you agree that the land is a non appreciating asset on its own, uh,
Correct.
and it is a raw material, which means that that raw material is to be kept for say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years and not for next 20 years time, right? So
Got
if you look at it as a finance professional and agree that the land is not of appreciating asset for me, because the day the markets do not perform, and by nature the real estate works that way, that there'll be peaks, then there'll be troughs, and then there'll be peaks, which means that there'll be a good period of 3 years when the land is not going to yield anything for you. So if that as a base comes in the decision making for the finance professional, most of the issues that you're talking about get adjusted, which effectively means I have a project, I get cash out of it, I use that money to build or get out of my existing project. I use my profits
Got
to build to be invested into the land, and then land makes
Yeah.
the money for me. If that's happening, no problem, right? The problem arises when you say that, okay, I add more land by taking more debt, assuming that this land would be worth 2x of what it is today. Because that's not the business. The business is about, your business is of building and selling, not of trading,
Correct.
right? So a trader probably still can actually work with it, but if you are a builder, which is a manufacturing arm, you would probably be in a mess. And if you see in India as well, the sector has actually grown significantly. You've seen more players like Godrej Properties who have come up and said that we would never buy the land. We would always
Correct.
do a joint development agreement with a landowner, which means that raw material will never come from us. And they've been decently successful in growing their business without hurting
Yeah.
their cash flows.
Understood. Great. I think that's a very interesting perspective you brought to the table. Moving on, in the same mindset, right? How has the whole experience with real estate for about almost a decade
Mhm.
shaped up your perspective in terms of seeing? Like, there's a lot of real estate companies that go bust over the years, right?
Yeah.
Only very uh, again, it's a very tough game to crack. You have a lot of players. There's multiple reasons one could totally lose money on the table. Uh, so, as a finance leader or finance expert, what sort of recommendations you have for CFOs who are trying to build a finance function in the real estate space? Let's say I'm starting a company tomorrow and I'm hiring for a CFO and a finance team. What would you recommend me and the CFO do so that we are there for another 20 years?
Yeah. So the thing is, like any other business, even in real estate, as we said, that there are certain set of rules that one has to create on the day one, right? So as a
Yeah.
CFO, you're looking at a 20 years business and not probably 3 years, which means that
Mhm.
when you're working with a CEO who's more growth oriented, he would keep on coming back to you saying that, okay, there is this opportunity which can actually give 20% return in next 3 months time.
Yeah.
uh, this is your job as a CFO to then evaluate whether this 20% can have a risk on my overall portfolio, right?
Got it.
What I believe is the biggest value add that a CFO does in any organization or any business which has high risk potential is to try and see that the the risk being taken is
Yeah.
evaluated well. The risk reward ratio well, and numbers
Got
actually work pretty magic in most of those cases. We've, I have seen multiple cases wherein the entrepreneur says that this is one idea that I believe is working pretty, is gonna
Yeah.
be a great one. And as a CFO, if you can actually put that in number and put it across to that entrepreneur, it becomes so easy for him to take the call, because
Yeah.
now he knows that, okay, 20% risk versus 100% loss, probably not a great idea. So, the real value is about one, fixing the game. You know that we are playing long term, not short term. Knowing that delivery is probably important than some short term gains. Three, knowing what are the risks and how do you manage that, right? Real estate
Understood.
has been a big game all across the world for that matter. So high risk will always have high returns as well.
True. True. Got it.
Yeah,
Great. So I think after this is when you sort of decided to start up. It's time. Being a person who mostly does things for other person. Now, let me go build something up from scratch and
yeah,
build a business out of it. Uh, so quickly between this and that, I want to interject another contrarian decision that you made, or probably might be a common decision in those days. Is you sort of did law. Uh, just curious about that. How did that idea come to mind? Is there a logic behind that, and how is it helping you today?
sure. So the thing is, when I left my job, the idea was to start something which can actually be helpful to the startups and mid-sized businesses in India. The idea was that India is seeing a great growth coming in those innovative regions,
Yeah.
right? And that is what gave the birth to FinsQ, which is a virtual CFO firm that we have been running since then.
Yeah.
Now within that, the law kind of helped me understand most of the things that are happening around these businesses from a different perspective. As an accountant or as a finance professional, you look at everything from the numbers perspective. But as
Got
soon
it.
as you start wearing the lens of a legal person, there is a different perspective that comes in, which is probably at times, whatever you do on a number may not work because the government actually looks at it differently or the lawmaker looks at it differently. So in my
Correct.
case, it was mostly early days when I came into Gurgaon and had started working on FinsQ. Had some time, and I thought probably this can give an additional perspective to what's happening around me, specifically when I'm consulting with people. Because most of the startups, another perspective was that most of the startups, when they are talking to you, he's not talking to you just for an idea or suggestion around numbers. It's also about the law that's there. And in
Yeah.
most of the cases, we also started working with foreign businesses ka India office, and that is where the things like SHA, the SPA, the shareholders agreement, share purchase agreement, the mergers, and all of that stuff started coming to us. And
Mm.
having a perspective of a law graduation actually helps big time.
Got it.
Giving you a good 360-degree view of what's happening around.
Got it. That holistic understanding of the business from a legal and a financial standpoint is what.
Yeah.
I think so. Would it be right to say that it helped you with both FinQ and Zawter in terms of, okay, let me now provide uh, adequate sort of service in terms of context with legal and financial standpoint, so that I help anyone who's coming to me with full image, right? Full information, as opposed to them resorting to another person for legal and another person for finance.
Yes. So, even when you're talking about finance in itself only, having a perspective of what's happening in the legal landscape actually adds a lot of value as well, right? That you can say that, this is a great business to be in, but then you know that, okay, there are legal aspects to it as well. So,
Got it.
frankly, that kind of complements well.
Hmm. So, quick question, do you think if a lot of finance leaders do also take up some portion or learn some portion of law, it's an added advantage? So do you recommend that? Now let's say a future in someone wants to become a CFO or a finance leader, right? Does learning law help them?
See, the thing is, there will be a different perspective to it. So, if I was a CFO of one organization, I would have, my legal team working with me, and hence probably I would not be required to be an expert in it, frankly. But
Mhm.
for me, it was more like you are one person who's building a team of consultants, and you're going to be working with multiple people or multiple clients, right? So if I was to be in a shoe of a CFO working for one organization, probably it's not something that's really required, because as a finance professional you have read law, so you understand the jurisprudence, you understand most of these things pretty well. But when it
Yeah,
comes to somebody who's building a consulting business, then probably it might help.
got it. Understood. So people in startups might, or finance leaders or finance folks who want to become leaders in startups might actually leverage this much better, given that they have to put multiple hats.
Yes, exactly.
Got it. Perfect. Great. Right. Fast forwarding to the point where you started up. You could have started anything. Why did you decide to start FinsQ in that space, doing managed CXO services? What was the idea behind it? And why did you find that whole business model enticing?
Got you. So the other thing is, when I was, frankly, from my first job to the third job, I did only 3 jobs in total during those 9 years of my career. Uh, it was always clear that I wanted to do something of my own, and I always say, fortunately or unfortunately, I got a rank. Because of that, I got a very quick job in my hand, right? Which effectively meant that the first thought was that, okay, let's do the job, have some money, and then start something. My first job left for was there for 1.5 years. Second was for 2.5, and third was for 3.5. It was like that. And every time I was moving out of job one and moving to job two, I had actually had a business idea upon which I was to work.
Got
So
it.
it was always that rat race thing that you are not able to leave your current salary, and then you get a hike.
Yes.
Uh,
Yes.
so that was the thought process. In 2013 mid, I discussed with my family and said that, you see, this is something which is happening at least 3 times in my life now. Let's just try it out once. Let's do something of our own. If it doesn't work, you can come back into the industry. Right?
Yeah.
That's where we started thinking that, okay, what should it ideally be? Given that you are a chartered accountant, you've done decently good in your studies, and during those periods, the articleship, the training that we got was for good 3.5 years, and we had actually managed most of the clients on our own. So had
Yeah.
that thought in mind that this is one service area which you can actually do pretty well. Add to it, as I told you earlier, that was the time, 2013-14 was the time when India had started seeing a boom coming in from the startup side of it as well. So we knew that, okay, India is gonna see more innovations coming in on its way, which means more startups are gonna grow, more foreign
True.
businesses are gonna come into India, and you know uh, these guys would need a very quality service as far as the finance management is concerned. So the virtual CFO got driven from there, wherein we were saying that a mid-sized business or a startup trying to grow on its own, not very easy for them to say that, okay, we can hire a 15-20 years experience,
Correct.
CFO, right? Because they come at their own cost. So
True.
startup would not be enticing enough for them. Probably it is today, not then at least. And at the same point in time, a CFO is more than happy to actually work with 2, 3, 4 different businesses and grow himself as well. So that was the broad idea of how FinsQ got founded. So we worked with a number of startups. Over a period of time, we understood that the definition of startup needs to be managed accordingly. Very small startup might not really value you. And the same way, a foreign business who's coming into India is also like a startup, wherein the
True.
management says that finance and HR is two area which is not going to be a great value add to us because we are good in operations. Let us do the operation and you manage it for us.
Right.
This was the time when Indian economy was shifting more from black or gray uh, to all white, and
Hmm.
all check value transactions were higher, which effectively meant that the startups or the businesses were happy to have somebody else manage their finance. Imagine a scenario wherein the cash is involved. It's not very easy for a promoter to say that okay, there is a third party which can manage it, right?
Correct.
So I guess the situation was such that we saw a significant change in the way people were doing business, and hence we saw that the opportunity would be there for good, strong finance professionals to grow in this area.
Understood.
All right. So that was the
I,
broad thought process around FinsQ.
yeah. So my question or my next question was almost subsequently answered with this one, but let me put forth. I would want to hear more from you on that front. You mentioned that why would a promoter come trust a third party person to manage cash and everything, right? So now I would want to overemphasize on this term trust and understand from you in a business where where you offer a service that is pretty similar to a lot of other people, right? Your biggest differentiator or moat is your service, is your quality of service, is your loyalty, honesty, all those qualities or characters that define the founder as well as the team that works on it, right? Now, how do you establish this trust? How do you make them believe that you are the person that they have to go with over the rest of the others, especially when there's a foreign entity that's looking to build a subsidiary here or a new startup that started?
Sure. So, Guru, what happens is that, if you look at any good finance team in any organization, you would see that the process is the first one that adds a lot of value to them, right? So, first is the process, second is the domain knowledge, right? These are the two most important things. To me, actually, trust comes after that, because if the processes are strong enough, the domain knowledge is good. Trust by default comes in because process makes sure that there is a trust. If there is no trust in the process, the trust on the person will never come in.
True.
Now, coming back to what a virtual CFO does is, then you are talking about a team
Yeah.
wherein there is a separate team which does work, specific work. For example, in India there are a number of compliances. Like GST, TDS is one compliance that you do on the taxation side of it. Imagine a situation wherein there is a team of chartered accountants doing just TDS and GST compliances for not one but
Hmm.
25, 50 clients at one point in time. And
Got
the
it.
same way, there is a secretarial team which does all the MCA, RBI related compliances for different businesses at sitting at one place. Now, what happens is when you reach out to a mid-sized business or a startup for that matter, and you say that, see, you either hire these three different people who have a domain knowledge of GST, TDS, MCA, RBI, labor laws, PF, ESI, so many other things, right? Or you do one thing, you hire one agency which has separate unit which manages all of these tasks, right? Now what happens then is that a typical businessman, a typical startup says that, if I'm in the right hand, a team which has been doing the same thing over and again for multiple gig people, which already has processes which are proven that they are working fine,
Yeah.
and all of them are being led by a virtual CFO or a virtual financial controller, somebody who has 10, 15 plus years of experience, with whom I can actually talk about my business and not about an accounting entry.
Mm-hmm.
This as a package works wonder for him, because now as an entrepreneur, I can talk to somebody who can understand my problem from my perspective. Right.
Right.
At the same point in time, that particular CFO is backed by a team of professionals who have been doing the same thing over and again, which means that the chances of missing in the process are lower. So the
Mm.
process in itself is such that the trust comes in. Because as soon as you start seeing that there are standard processes being followed, people who are doing the job are not learning; they've already learned it. They've done the same kind of processes for different other businesses. It becomes pretty easy for them to agree to it. And you compare that with the situation wherein if I were to need the same kind of services from my in-house employees, mind it, it's not very easy for you to get all of this done from one person. Imagine, is it possible for you to say that I hire an accountant who understands accounting standards well, who is well aware of GST, who's well aware of TDS, who's well aware of the MCA compliances, who's well aware of the RBI compliances, so on and so forth, and then he can talk to me like a businessman, right? So that ways, it is frankly not comparable to a lot of the services that are available, as an individual. So the team actually adds a lot of value to the startup. And I can tell you, I can give you multiple examples wherein we've been managing a business which came into India way back in 2016, good 9 years, and we've been 2015, 9 years today, and we've been working with them since then. So the churn,
That's when you started out, right? 2015 is when you started out.
yes.
So they've been there with you since the inception.
Yes, since the inception. There have been cases wherein we've been working together since 2015, 2016, 2017. Every year a new client gets added. The churn is very low, and the reason is simple, because as a businessman, till the time you grow to a stage wherein you are probably looking at an IPO, you do not want to look at this as a hassle. You generally look at finance at times as a hassle, because you say that all I need to do is, one, somebody ensuring that everything is accounted for well, two, I get my reports on time and I am compliant enough.
I was of a contrary belief or a contradicting belief that this side of business might have a lot of churn, because by the time a company gets to a particular revenue or a funding stage or a growth stage, they would say, let's go in-house than, have an external dependency. But your perspective is totally different. Walk me through it. I mean, enlighten me. I would like to understand. Why do people generally stay this long as opposed to hiring someone while still having the money to afford it?
Got you. So two perspectives to it. Okay, one is I have grown to a stage where I've been able to get a PE investor to me. Second is I have grown to an extent where I need to get into an IPO stage. So if you've grown to an extent where you want to go to an IPO stage, you would want an in-house CFO, you would want an in-house FC, but still the transactional volumes are something which do not give any great value to most of these people, right? So you would find CFOs who come with this thought process that I want everything to be done in-house at my end, and then you would see a lot of CFOs who are smart enough to say that transaction do not add any value to me. I need controllers under me, people who are actually spending their quality time on the data and the analysis.
Correct.
So when the businesses grow beyond a particular stage wherein they need to hire a lot of full-time CFOs and FCs with them, there will still be option of businesses like us helping them out with the transactions. For the businesses which are up to a PE or a VC stage, most of the time even PE and VCs are happy saying that here in this particular situation, at a fraction of a cost, I am able to get experience of a CFO of a person who has spent good 20 years into different businesses, right? So that was the thought process behind Zawter as well. But even with FinsQ, the real idea is that if you need a full-time CFO in your organization, imagine a fees of about 1 crore rupee as a typical salary for one CFO. The team would be at least 3 times of it, right? Right. So it's a costly affair, right? Plus, for you to be able to hire a good person in your team, you need to sell yourself as well to them, that why would that guy be, right? So I believe the kind of service that gets delivered changes over a period of time as the businesses grow, but the requirement of a CFO and the team remains there. Another perspective to it, and this is what we do a lot in Zawter, which is about the typical projects. You have grown to a stage, you have stuck with an ERP which is not kind of performing as per your requirements. You either ask your CFO to lead it, or you say that if there is somebody who comes from my kind of industry, has done an SAP or an Oracle or a Microsoft Dynamics installation in some of the bigger organizations. Can he come up? Can he help me with my problem statement? This is a good
Understood.
6 months project. You cannot hire somebody, but
Yeah.
you can actually use a well seasoned, experienced person who can come in,
Hmm.
advise you, make sure that whatever is advised is being done on ground, and then
Yeah.
goes out of the picture, right? And there are many such opportunities that you can see in the bigger businesses as well.
Understood. Got it. I think enough finance. We've spoken a lot about it. Uh, Thought I will come out. You've been a strong promoter of mental health. I know that because you've guided me. I mean, you've interacted a couple of times on that as well. Uh, so tell me about your mental health lifestyle. What do you do? Do you do yoga, meditation? And quickly give us like a 3-step or a 5-step checklist of how does someone retain mental health while being a CFO?
Right. So I guess two things that has helped me in my studies, has helped me in my job, and I'm practicing that in whatever I'm doing today as well.
Yeah.
One is the karmanyevadhikarasya,
Hmm.
which effectively tells you that a lot of times what happens is that there is so much of noise around us,
Hmm.
the noise about expectations, and as soon as you start giving it out, as soon as you say that okay, the result is not what I can actually control, a lot
Yeah.
of the pressure that comes to you actually goes away. I was speaking in an event with MET schools for a career program that they had called me
Mhm.
for, and the topic was about the pressure that the students have of being able to perform well. Now, not
Yeah.
everybody can be the can get a first rank, right? There'll be somebody who's a
Not
bad
everybody
teacher.
can be an Arun, right? They can't get an R40.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and my question to them was that see, the thing is, most of the time what we are seeing is we are seeing what is expected from me tomorrow basis what is being done by somebody who's a colleague of mine. Now he's good in studies, very good. I probably might not be as good in it, but does it define my future? And a very simple basic thought that one can put is, think about your school days. You would have studied with at least 50, 35, 40, 50 students with you,
Yeah.
and you can actually imagine people who were backbenchers not doing good at all in their studies, and then there will be people who were kind of rock stars, right?
Yeah.
Come today, do you imagine any person out of those 50 people who have not done good in his life?
No.
Right. So the dots will get connected. Somehow they'll get connected. The problem with us is that we want that to be connected today. We want to see how it will connect, while
Correct.
knowing that it doesn't happen.
Yeah.
That's one thing that has helped me big time during my studies. CA as an exam is such that you write 8 exams in 9 days, and you need to clear a group of 4 exams together. Which means that if you are fail in one, you need to rewrite all of those 4 exams again.
Correct.
And during those periods, you would generally see out of 4 there will be one exam which is tough. So I've written first exam, it was went well. Second exam, it was good. Third is where it was bad.
Hmm.
And you would see the fourth exam, there will be 50% of the students who would not even appear in it.
Because knowing that they won't. Yeah.
Yes, because it's of no use. Why? Because if I flunked in third, fourth, any which way I'll have to write again. So I am not coming. I was in the same situation, exactly the same situation. Somehow the mind said that you have done your job. Result is not in your hands.
Yeah.
Tomorrow there is another exam, just prepare for it.
Yeah.
So letting it go helped me write that exam, and with God's grace, my marks in the third exam was higher than the fourth one.
I just can't believe this story after the rank that you've scored, but yeah, still.
That's how it is actually. So most of the time, the challenge is that we are not letting it go. So I am a very strong believer in karmanye vadikaraste. Another
Hmm.
thing that has helped me big time is the meditation.
Hmm.
Uh, so I have followed transcendental meditation for a long time, and it helps big time. They say that 20 minutes of TM is as good as an 8 hours of sound sleep. And they also clarify that when you say sound sleep of 8 hours, it is as good. It'll probably not be more than 4 to 5 hours. This is the time when you do not know what's happening, no dreams, nothing, right? Uh, so transcendental meditation is another thing which has helped me big time. Wherever I come across a situation wherein I can be of help, I do push people to go do it. Probably when you do it, you don't get to know the benefit. You get to see the benefit probably a few years down the line when you've been through it, right? Uh, because I believe the mental health is all about knowing what is noise and what is a thing which matters to you. A simple rule that I follow is me and you are talking, and we have not had a great relationship. You have said something which is hurting me. Only question that I need to ask myself is this thing gonna have an impact on me probably 5 years down the line?
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, 99% of the time it will not. So
Got it.
if it is not to be with me, why do I need to
Carry that
be
baggage.
bothered about it? Yeah.
Yeah.
So accept it, move on, and I guess that's something that helps with time.
I think a pinch of detachment, TM, great 2 points, I guess.
Probably,
Never-
I would differ it from detachment because detachment still is, you would look at it slightly differently. I'm saying I'm not detaching, but I'm saying I'm not expecting.
Got it.
I do not expect something out of it. I know that if I'm doing good, I will get a result out of it. The only
Yeah.
challenge is that I do not know what is the right result.
Understood. Great.
Right.
That's it.
So no detachment per se. Be attached,
No
but
expectations.
yeah.
We'll rephrase that. Perfect. All right. So we are in the last segment of the conversation, and this is something that's a very personal favorite of mine. So we're talking AI. AI in finance. We've had this over all our earlier episodes. We've asked finance leaders on how are they leveraging AI, what do they expect, what are they bullish about, and everything. So I'm going to throw the same question at you, just to hear your perspective.
Yeah.
Are you leveraging any AI technology today while offering this managed CXO services? And what is one or two AI trends that you're very bullish about?
Sure. See, the thing is, finance is generally taught is seen as one of the departments in businesses which has not seen a big technology up move over past few decades. I guess the last one was ERP, and we are still struggling with the same kind of ERPs, right? So Bluecopa is doing something very around.
Now, people are going to assume that I subtly put this question so that you wouldn't recommend us. No.
No, this is not a paid post. No, but generally speaking, if you look at it, the finance as a department has not actually seen a significant up move in terms of the acceptance of technology. ERP was the last one, and we have seen that even ERPs have not been an easy one for most of the organizations, right? Having said that, I guess the AI, the Gen AI, the both, there are so many use cases which are very powerful, impactful, which should mean that the way we are working today is going to change significantly. I gave you one perspective of a CFO who says that for me, all I need is me and my four fine finance controllers who manage what matters to us.
Correct.
I guess that's the thought process that I believe is gonna be there first with the bigger organizations, ultimately with the smaller organizations as well. Wherein you say that the transactions and the basic work is something which either an individual or a bot or an agent gets it to me.
Yeah.
I want to be in a situation wherein the knowledge and the information is available to me at a click of a button, right?
Got
Now,
it.
maybe in the form of dashboard, maybe
Mhm.
in the form of a Gen AI tool which can with whom I can talk,
Yeah.
right? So there are multiple areas wherein the opportunity is gonna be there. At FinsQ and at Zawter, we are working with multiple such ideations and ideas, wherein we are trying to see how some of these tools can be used for multiple businesses at large. For example, the dashboarding is one thing that we are trying to work with a number of businesses,
Yeah.
specifically when the data is not structured. Now, with the structured data, a lot of tools are already available. When the data is not structured, it becomes slightly tougher. So that's my thought. That I believe that AI would ultimately mean that we as finance professionals uh, would start focusing more on things that matter to the business,
Yeah.
less on the controllership, because controllership is something which can still be done by a lot of these you know new technologies that are coming in. But
Got
having said that, having a knowledge of this as a platform,
it.
and having an intent uh, of experimenting with this is something
Yeah.
that should be the key. you know
Understood.
I at times look at it as a platform like internet, which was there,
Mm-hmm.
added to it mobile phones, add to it mobile phones which are full multimedia, uh,
Yeah.
which had a huge impact on the way people trade, right? So an Amazon worked happened primarily because you had internet and phone
Yeah.
at the right point in time. I believe this is where we are. Probably the use cases are something which are still being
Emerging. Yeah.
still being built, but it will have a huge impact.
It's a
We would
promise.
probably be discussing different things about finance in the years to come. People at times tell me that does it mean that finance professionals would be irrelevant? I think that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
The role of finance professionals would change,
Correct.
but they'll remain relevant as well.
Yeah. I certainly agree with you on that. What you do or where you intellectually challenge yourself might now shift, probably take like a 180-degree shift, but your ability, your human intelligence, your domain knowledge is still of great value to the organization, because at the end of the day, AI needs someone to tell it what to do.
Yes, yes, exactly. That will be
Perfect.
there. That will be there, and I'm sure. For example, we are talking about internal controls today of human errors. Pro- Probably tomorrow we'll be talking about internal controls to make sure that
Yeah.
the technology errors needs to be captured, right? Because that's the bigger
Hopefully
risk.
that doesn't happen. There is no errors at all, but yeah, I get the point.
Yeah.
Good. Perfect. I think it was a very interesting conversation. A lot of perspectives, right from real estate to managed CFO services to virtual CFO to mental health to AI now. Thank you so much, Arun. It was wonderful chatting with you today. Looking forward to meet you as well in person soon. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Guru. It was lovely talking to you, and all the best to you and the full Bluecopa team.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Thank you.